And I think the fact that Mr. Samuels was more concerned about telling people to aim within their ballpark. I think heavy criticism was taken to that, basically because how he phrased it. But I want to talk about Mr. Kevin Samuels, the controversial man himself, the grandfather. A lot of people had a lot of different opinions of Mr. Samuels. There's not really much that I could say about Mr. Samuels besides I believe he was very genuine. You know, what he was doing came from a kind place. I don't always believe he had the best delivery, but he didn't say anything that he didn't feel wouldn't have made a better impact. I don't agree with all of his takes. I think overall, Mr. Samuels he did a lot for black people. He gave us a lot of perspective. You know, I've never seen such a successful black man rise in viewership like that. You know, I remember when I found Mr. Samuels, it was right before the you're below average or you're just average or whatever. I remember when that happened and I was like, dang, this guy's going in. I understand where some of his stances were. My take on Mr. Samuels was he was just a steadfast individual. I can respect Mr. Samuels for how he presented, what he stood for, his principles. You know, it's very unfortunate that we lost him very early, but I guess God had much better plans. There was also a few things that I saw after getting the news of Mr. Samuel's passing. I went on the internet, worst choice of the night. I would like to share a few of the tweets. As I sit down and I really think everything that we're seeing, right? Sit down and read some of these tweets. I mean, some of them were just nasty. These are just disrespectful things to say. You know, you have people calling him a misogynist. Like, you have people saying he hated black women. Does he hate black women? I don't know. Do I really care? No, because that's not my problem. They sat there and they crucified him. Crucified. A bit dramatic, right? Why would so many women want to continue calling and asking and talking to him and trying to get his point of view if it's nothing but hate? You know what I mean? If it was hate speech, why would YouTube allow something like that to grow in viewership? We had one man come into the world and essentially pioneer a space and become the leader of the space. So the question is, what impact has Mr. Samuels left on the black community as a collective? What have we learned from Mr. Samuels? What was Mr. Samuels saying that triggered so many people? And I mean realistically, like, what was it that he was really saying that was the line in the sand? I think it's just because he was a black man who demanded respect. After seeing the tweets, I stopped and I thought to myself, do y'all not realize, like, this man has a family? Do y'all not, sit down and think, how does his mom feel coming across possible posts talking about how her son hates black women and all these other crazy things that these young ladies are saying simply because they disagree with someone? How does someone like Mr. Samuels build such an audience, build such a following, have celebrities want to speak with him, and converse with someone who hates black women? It makes no sense. I think if Mr. Samuels had an interview with Beyonce, that wouldn't make a difference. And Beyonce's like literal God to some of these girls. Damn, I'm starting to see people's perspectives, other people's point of view. A man speaking in certain ways. Really a man being adamant about what he understands and proving himself time and time again. Mr. Samuels was truly just the right person at the right time. I think he truly had the understanding and enough time to really see what the dating market was like. Just the right man at the right time. I don't really think there's any other way to explain a Kevin Samuels story like that. Like, we've had people talking about dating for years, but we've never really talked about, just dating on a wide scale within the black community, dating as a whole. I think Mr. Samuels is really like the catalyst that really put a lot of these conversations, I would say, mainstream. Now everyone's asking, what do you bring to the table? You know, what will you do for me? You know, no one's thinking about just coming together and really building something. He's always told these young ladies, like, you know, you're a mom and things like that. Like, what would you do for this 6-figure man and things like that you want? And, you know, I've understood, like, well, could a rich guy do it? Possibly. But what's the likelihood of it happening, and what's the likelihood of that young lady being what he desires and wants and needs? You know, that I can't really explain. But also, it's like in my situation, I could want a woman like Rihanna and things like that. But would I really want a Rihanna, or would I want someone who is relatable, someone who would really give me the things that I need? Because relationships are about exchange, and it's like, if you're thinking about focusing on achieving an unfair exchange, the chance of that unfair exchange falling into your favor would be slim to none. And I think that was the main thing. He was telling people to set themselves up for success by really aiming for something obtainable. Some girls want millionaires. That's perfectly fine. But will every woman on the planet obtain $1 million man? As much as I would like that, I do not believe so. Overall, I think it's just sad how people act like this. You know, you don't celebrate anyone's death. You don't glorify any kind of nonsensical behavior like this with some more of these wild tweets. All I have to say is, rest in peace, Mr. Samuels. You were chosen to go back home at the time you were called. Um, and I pray that the family is doing well. God is with them through their difficult time. Losing their child, losing their brother, losing their friend, their loved one. Rest in peace, Mr. Samuels. And thank you for your impact. Thank you to tuning in to Damage.